In this lesson, we're going to cover configuration tables. A configuration table can be used to pass information into a package. It's used to update variables and connections, and it can be used by several packages. This allows you to update multiple packages from one location. Here in Visual Studio, I have a blank package I've created. I'm going to right-click, go to Package Configurations, and this is the Package Configuration Organizer. This is where you can set up configuration tables and configuration files for the packages. I want to place a check inside of Enable Package Configurations and go to Add. Click Next. And in the drop-down menu, I have several options here. One of those options is SQL Server. That's a selection for configuration tables. When I select SQL Server, I click on the drop-down menu and I get the connection drop-down menu. Notice in this box I have no connections because I've created no connections on my package so far. I'm going to click Cancel. I could return back to the package and right-click in the Connection Manager and create a connection, or I can click New here and create a connection in here. I'm going to go ahead and do that. And I'm going to select the localhost AdventureWorks 2008 connection. Click OK. And now we see that connection. In the drop-down menu, below you'll see Configuration Table. Notice I don't have any table in this list, and that's because the configuration table has not been created on the AdventureWorks database. I can click on the New button next to that, and I get the command to create the table. I'll click OK, and that will create the table in the AdventureWorks 2008 database. Below that we have a configuration filter. I can click on the drop-down menu. You notice I have no filter here. I'm just going to create my own filter here, and I can call this Dev for development. Now you can set up whatever filters you like. A popular way to do it is to set up a filter for development and one for production. I'll click Next. I'm going to expand this screen and scroll over to the left here. And here we'll see all of the executables and objects in my package. I notice I only have one connection here, and that's a connection to the AdventureWorks database that I've created already. And I have variables, but I haven't created any variables in the package, so there's none showing here. I can click the plus next to the AdventureWorks, click the plus next to Properties, and now I can see all of the properties of the AdventureWorks connection. And I can select any of these properties to be placed in the configuration table. For example, I can place a check next to the connection string, and now the connection string here will be saved in that configuration table. I'm going to uncheck this and click Cancel for right now and close this. I'm going to go back to the Connection Manager. I'm going to right click and I'm going to create a new connection. I'm going to create a connection to a flat file. In the flat file connection manager, I'm just going to call this config file, actually config table test. Click Browse. I'm just going to find a flat file that I have on my computer. I have one stored in a folder here. And I'm going to set up the text qualifier and the column names in the first row. And there's my flat file. Click OK. And if I try to do something to the flat file, let's say I use a file system task. And I'll right click on this, go to Edit. Let's say I want to make a change to that file. So I'll do something like, I'll move the file. The source connection, of course, will be the configuration file. And the destination, I'm going to select, I'll create a new connection. This will be just an existing folder. And I'll just move it to my desktop. And this should move that flat file that I selected to my desktop. Click OK. I'll run this one time. It turns green, indicating success. So I'll go to my desktop and I should see that file. And there it is. I'm going to place the file back in the folder that it originally was in. And I'm going to go back to Visual Studio now. Now I'm going to create a package configuration by right-clicking go into Package Configurations, place a check and enable Package Configurations, click Add, Next. I'm going to select the SQL Server, select the SSIS configuration table I just created. I'll create a dev filter, go Next. I'll maximize the screen again, and here we can see that I have the two connections that I've created now. I'm going to click the plus right next to Configuration Table Test, and we can see the properties of that connection now. And here you can see the connection string, and the connection string is what I'm going to update. So I'm going to place a check next to that. You'll see the connection string shown here. This will be saved inside of the configuration table. I'll click Next. And now it asks us for a configuration name. This can be any name. I'm just going to call this my config table file. Finish. And now we see config table file shown here. I'm going to hit close. If I run the package again, it would still run just as it did before, because I have not made any changes to the information from the configuration table. Now I'm going to open up Management Studio, and we're going to navigate to that table. And here is the SSIS configuration table that we created. I'm going to right click on it and select Edit Top 200 Rows. And now we can see the configured value, the package path, and the configured value type, and the configuration filter. And all the information is stored here in the table. The configuration value is the value that we want to change if we want to update the package. So in this case here, it's pointing to a file inside of SSIS 2008 class, module resources, received files, and then the name of the file. If I was to change this to a file that doesn't exist, let's say I change it from .dat to .csv, and this file does not exist in that location. I can return back to my package now. And now when I run this, I should get an error message. Notice the task is turned red, indicating there's an error. I go to the Progress tab, and here you can see it says that this file is not found. Notice it's the .csv. So we updated the package from outside the package with the configuration table. In the Try It section, we're going to create a configuration table, we're going to create a variable in the package, and we're going to pass information to the package from the configuration table. And this information will update the variable in the package. Here in Visual Studio, I'm going to right click in a blank package and go to Variables, and I'll create a new variable. I'm going to call this str config test. I'm going to make the data type string, and the value is going to be hard-coded. And that's literally hard-coded. We'll close the variables. Now I'm going to drag out a script task, and right-click and go to Edit. In the read-only variables, I'm going to drop down and click on the configuration test variable I created. Go to Edit Script. And I'm going to create a pop-up box in my script task to show the value of the variable. So let's scroll down. Here where it says add your code here, I'm going to add in message box dts dot variables and put in the value of the variable. The name of the variable is str config test. And that should pop up a message box showing the value of that variable. I'll save this and close it. Click OK. And we'll run the package one time just to see it pop up. And now we see the value of hard-coded. I'll stop debugging. And now I'm going to create configurations for this. I'll go to Package Configurations, Enable Package Configurations, Add, Next, select SQL Server. I don't have any connections in here, so I'm going to click New. Connect to the AdventureWorks 2008 database. I've already created the SSIS configuration table. I'm going to click on that. If you haven't, you simply click on New and create that table. In the filter, I'm just going to call Dev. I'm going to click on Next. I'll maximize this. Here's the variables. I'll click on the plus next to it and the plus next to properties. And I'm going to click on the check next to value. And you can see hard-coded is the value. Go to Next. I want to name this our config variable. Click Next, or Finish actually. Hit Close. Now when I run the package now, it's still going to say hard-coded. That's because I haven't changed the value inside of the configuration table. But this information is actually pulling from that configuration table. It's not using the value inside the variable in the package. So let's go to the table. I'm going to right-click, go to Edit, and there's the value hard-coded. Now I'm going to change the value to config data. Go back to our package and run it again. And now we can see config data in our pop-up instead of hard-coded. And that's because it pulled the value from the configuration table. In this lesson, we talked about configuration tables. We showed how they were used to pass information into a package, used to update variables and connections. They also can be used by several packages, and allows you to update multiple packages from one location.